Welcome to the weather vlog. Whether you watch this or not, I'm vlogging. Safe and sound in the Puget Sound, abundance and friendship and returning to our patterns. Little bit of spring cleaning. Right place, right time for orcas. Watching the pod's dorsal fins as they periodically surfaced made me think of a circular saw blade cutting through the water. Cannonball! Gainfully fun employed, we walked our bikes onto the Port Townsend ferry boat where Emily tried out new bike cleats. Really enjoyed biking around the residential areas and Fort Worden. Met some nice people walking by and would highly recommend a visit to this beautiful place. All the forts were built between 1898 and 1920. They were designated historical landmarks in 1976, and it makes for a fun trip to explore the ruins. There are several historical landmarks like this in the Puget Sound. They were all located strategically to defend against an unlikely sea invasion. Pink and green complement beautifully in the salmonberry meadow where we live. They're one of the first flowers to bloom in early spring, and the bees just love it, as do the migrating rufous hummingbird. When the salmonberry leaves have fallen, I'm able to see a bunch of Himalayan blackberry growing over the tops. Left to its own devices, this plant will reach down, split into 2 or 3 or 4 tendrils, and then make new roots and create new canes. Unchecked, it would eventually take over the meadow. Ideally, you dig out their roots, but since it was mixed with the salmonberry, I just had to settle for chopping them up. I'll have to check again next winter, but I have a feeling that the greenness of summer will slow down the blackberry. Spontaneity struck us, and we got another use out of our emergency passports, taking Emily to Canada for her first time. Vancouver is a cosmopolitan city, big, bustling, and beautiful. We walked around downtown for a while before meeting up with my old friend Logan. We went for a walk up to the highest point in the city and dropped in the conservatory. Thanks for showing us around, Logan. Through the Peace Arch to the Stars and Stripes. Over the bridge, and then back over the bridge the other way. Went to San Juan Island for kayaking with Emily's family and my mom. Crystal Seas Kayaking had a great tour, super kid-friendly. It's always fun to have visitors, because then you have an excuse to explore more deeply your local surroundings. Fort Casey was really cool, and so was this, the Price Sculpture Forest. Definitely worth a visit if you're ever on the island. They even have an augmented reality situation, which is quite silly. Back on our own some lonesome, Emily and I went to Muirkirk Gardens. In early spring, there's no better place to be than a manicured garden in the woods. I finally quit being unemployed and got a job at a garden center. Watering, customer service, cleaning up plants, watering, unloading semi-trucks, reorganizing areas, and just learning and enjoying being outside.
Achoo!
Meanwhile, my brother was very sick and ended up dying at UW Hospital on April 18th, 2024. He was 30 years old, and his name was Evan Lee Adair. The night before he passed away, we sang in the biggest kirtan we'd ever been a part of with Krishna Das. Evan was a big ham bone and quite the goofball.
Start to get a little dizzy. It starts warping. I get dizzy. Huh. Let me try again here. We are the lollipop kids. I'm just by my motherfucking self here. Gotta get every little last drop of the helium. Woo!
This is crazy. This is crazy.
It's a flash room like they got at the sunset.
Then maybe infinity is not something that's beyond us after all. Perhaps it's something within us.
Of the things he left behind, I've really enjoyed some writing I found in an old journal. There's no date, but based on the content, this must have been written in 2018. Evan loved rap music and playing with words. I've got more time left than I've put in. Always time for a new begin. If you learn from your losses, then you always win. I can tell the future. It's a blessing and my curse. I already know I'm going to drop a verse that will turn your current ride into a hearse. Your judgment of me is more detriment to you than testament of me. You'd do yourself dirty to try and hurt me. I'll wax you like Burt's Bees. E-Boy Shuffle. Big E. Evan Lee Adair. If you're ever cutting broccoli and some drops on the floor, leave it for Evan. My dad came out to visit for a day trip, and we walked out to Baby Island on a trail of broken seashells. You can only get here at super low tide. We made sure there weren't any big mammals resting on the beach out there before we approached. It's really fun to explore little places like this. The majority of the plant life was English ivy, and there were some snowberry and some roses. And this tree, called the golden chain tree, is actually the same that we had at the garden center in the arbors. Pretty tough tree to live on that island.
Aww.
Last and I went to my car and I went to
Had some fun with this crispy lichen. It's lung lichen, or lobaria, and after a little bit of water, it changes colors and gets all floppy. Try it at home. Have you ever been mountain biking? Or ever wear yellow sunglasses? You ever been in the woods in the springtime? How'd that make you feel? Emily planted garlic in November, and it was time to harvest the scapes, which are garlic-y, tasty little flower stems that are curly-Q like a pigtail. You can make sauce out of them and fry them up. Tasty, tasty. And now for something completely different. I moved to Seattle for 6 weeks to do another season of Seward Park Audubon Center summer camp. Have you ever been to summer camp? I was staying at my boss's house and he had this old carport, and I deconstructed it and brought it out to the place we're living on Whidbey where it can be reused. I also took his styrofoam stash to Styro Recycle in Kent. There's something profoundly satisfying about putting stuff where it ought to go. This man is musical royalty. What a legend. Definitely recommend seeing him if you ever get the chance. Love, unity, peace, and dancing to good music. One of my favorite lyrics I heard from his original music was, "Dreams are only achieved by the willing." Saw a 4th of July drone show, and honestly my favorite part was this, when they were taking off and getting organized. It was quite a spectacle. Some of the drones fell into the ocean, which makes you scratch your head. I also wondered what people saw from across the water. Big light show. America and the 4th of July are very complicated, but I still had fun with the newfangled entertainment show with all my fellow Americans. If there's one thing we're good at, it's entertaining ourselves. Nice work to everyone who wrote the code and designed this. When was the last time you jumped into a lake, or went for a hike, or went barefoot? It's pretty special to have senses and feelings. And there's no place like nature for you to use them all, inside and out. Serendipity, bicycled through a car show, had to get off the bike and take all these pictures. This was in downtown Renton. And there's just something about all the shapes and colors about these cars, and the quality and the hydraulics, the pride and ownership and restoration of old things. I don't think I'd have gone out of my way to visit this if I hadn't have accidentally biked through it, but knowing how special car shows are, maybe I'll make time for some in the future. Emily's mom and niece came up to participate in summer camp, and we all got to hang out together in the city, and it was the Whidbey Island Fair the following weekend. After summer camp, I dove back into island life with abundance, friendship, and finding whole new patterns. Beat the rain in August, driving east over Highway 2, stopping at Deception Falls, taking time to fart around in Leavenworth, Kashmir, Wenatchee, and Ephrata before going to Soap Lake, known for its high mineral content. A week later, we hopped on the Port Townsend ferry and went backpacking. Backpacking can be gear intensive, so I always recommend you look at secondhand gear shops, or if you live in Seattle, you can go to Wonderland Gear Exchange, because even if you're an extreme minimalist, you still need some gear. And once you're up there, it's a whole new world, but really it's just the same world, only a different part of it. Once you're all set up at camp, you can stop moving, but don't worry, the earth keeps moving, the colors change, and then the stars come out. The light pollution was so low, it looked like the stars were fascia, all connected. After a happy morning beverage and cleaning up camp, we left to summit the nearest mountain top. Sleeping can be hit or miss, so I think I'll add melatonin to my kit next time. It's a pretty big view. Nothing but saltwater, islands, peninsulas, cityscapes, mountains, volcanoes, and the interior. Besides human beings, we also saw a marmot and goat tracks and plenty of little chipmunks, rabbits, grouse, and other little birds.
Yeehaw!
I couldn't agree more. And for the record, pictures don't do it justice. You're gonna have to see it for yourself. go climb a mountain today. It's incredible how many different ecologies exist on a mountain, from scrubby grasses, alpine plants, and lichens, to ferns, mosses, lush plants, and mushrooms you can eat. Good mountain will give you an opportunity for an ice bath. And just like that, you'll come out feeling fresh and renewed for the rest of the hike. Thanks for sticking around to the end of my video and receiving what I have to share. I'm grateful for you, and tell your friends if you want.